When trying to make everything better, you sometimes forget why it was good to begin with. Hunt Showdown is a tense PvPvE extraction shooter set in an alternate Louisiana made by Crytek. The game is known for its brutal and unforgiving gameplay. If you get out alive, you win big. If you don't, you lose everything. This core principle runs through every aspect of the game. The bosses are grotesque, gory, and very unsettling. Even regular AI have terrifying designs that send chills down your spine. And then there is this eerie silence while you wait in lobby for the next match to begin. That tense moment when you're just waiting to dive back into the horror all over again. And I must say, I absolutely love it. It's clear that this game has a strong, consistent vision. And that's exactly why I and so many people from the community fell in love with the game to begin with. But if you check SteamDB, you'll see a whole different picture. A game that once had a peak at around 60,000 players now barely gets to 15,000. So, what happened? There was one major update the community was eagerly waiting for. It was the re-release that changed the game's name from Hunt Showdown to Hunt Showdown 1896. New weapons, quality of life improvements, an upgrade to CryEngine 5.11, which made the game look even more realistic than before, and to top it all off, a completely redesigned user interface. On paper, it almost sounds too good to be true, but the community quickly realized that not everything that shines is gold. So, what exactly went wrong? There were three main factors that ruined the experience for many players. First off, the new user interface. Secondly, performance issues. And the third one, which is the worst of them all, bugs. The bugs in particular were a huge reason why so many people grew frustrated with the game and why some still hold a grudge to this day. Some might argue that a game doesn't lose its players because the visuals change. And to be fair, a lot of the hate was simply because it was new. It looked pretty similar to Call of Duty, and that was one reason why many people didn't like the new UI. But if you look past that, there were some serious issues when it came to the new user interface. You see, Crytek really tried to optimize the experience for the console players, and in doing so, they made it completely unbearable for PC players. Actions that usually took one click now were buried beneath multiple layers of menus. And to top it all off, it was painfully slow. Just opening your team's equipment screen, as example, took up to 2 seconds. And then on top of that came the bugs. Visual glitches, unresponsive buttons, and accidental misclicks became common. In some cases, players ended up buying wrong equipment. Or even worse, spent their hard-earned blood bonds, which cost real money, on the wrong skins because the game didn't register the input correctly. And let me tell you something, as frustrating as all of this sounds now, this was actually the least of the problems. Because unfortunately, they got even worse. Before the update, Hunt Showdown would run on any decent PC. I'm gonna list you on screen now the recommended PC specs before the 1896 update. As you can see, it wasn't that demanding on the hardware. But if you look on the recommended specs after the update, you can see a clear picture. You needed way better hardware to continue playing the game. And now, of course, new games usually require better hardware. But that's not the issue. The problem is, even if you met the recommended specs, the game would still not run good. You see, here are my specs. And as you can see, I don't have that bad of a computer. Of course, it's not high-end, but it's also not the worst. And looking at the recommended specs, I should definitely run the game pretty easily, right? But now let me tell you something. On the lowest setting, my game runs 80 FPS. And when I try to stream, I get around 50 to 60 FPS, sometimes even 40. So looking at the requirements, my PC should run the game pretty easily. But it doesn't. In fact, there are moments where the game is just unplayable. The game will suddenly drop to half of your normal FPS for no apparent reason. And the worst of it all, those problems were there since the update, and they're still not fixed. The game is clearly poorly optimized, and it's been a major issue ever since the update came. Sure, better hardware can help, but I don't think players should drop hundreds of dollars on new components just because the developers don't want to optimize the game. We've seen this with so many games in the past few years, and honestly, I am sick of it. Now we get to the worst part of the update. The bugs. Nowadays, it's pretty normal to expect bugs after a major release. Some minor, some more serious. But after the launch of Hunt Showdown 1896, the game was in a really bad state. Mainly because there were so many game-breaking bugs that made the game really unplayable for most people. And to top it all off, Crytek took a long time to actually fix them. You might ask, what exactly were those game-breaking bugs? Let me list them for you. Mouse cursor bug. Sometimes when loading into a match, the game wouldn't hide your mouse cursor. That meant that you would have a flying mouse cursor on screen while playing the game. And the only fix for that? You had to close and completely restart the game. Network problems. A lot of players suddenly experienced massive ping spikes after the update. In some cases it was so bad you couldn't even move your character properly. And unlike the mouse bug, this made the game literally unplayable. And it drove a lot of new and long-time players away from the game. Skin issues. You know, Hunt Showdown earns its money through microtransactions. You can buy skins for your hunter, or your weapon, your tools, or your consumables. After the update, several paid skins were disabled due to visual bugs. Some wouldn't load properly, others were bugged out. But in the worst case, skins became invisible. You can imagine how broken that is in a hardcore loot shooter like Hunt Showdown. If you want to see what skins exactly were disabled back then, I will put a link of the official Hunt Showdown Twitter in the description. Map crash bug. If you opened your map while a boss was banished, the game had the possibility to crash completely. And let me tell you, this one happened to me a lot. Thankfully you didn't lose your hunter, but let me tell you, it was more than frustrating. And those are just 4 examples. There were way more bugs in the game after the update. If you've experienced other bugs I did not mention, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear how bad it got for others too. And now we're here. How does the game run today? Well, first of all, let's give credit where credit is due. Crytek did listen to the community, and they fixed most of the major issues. All the bugs that I mentioned earlier have been addressed. And overall, the game is definitely in a much better state now. The UI has improved over time. It's still not as intuitive or clean as the older version, but it's slowly and steadily getting there. However, the performance issues I mentioned are still a major problem in the game. I, along with many other content creators, am still waiting for Crytek to fix them. You see, Hunt Showdown had the potential to become the next big competitive shooter. You could see it in a huge spike in player counts after the update came. Like, let's be honest, they quadrupled their player count. That's insane. But Crytek didn't play their cards right. Instead of satisfying long-term veterans or exciting new players, they disappointed both. In Germany, we have a saying. Versuchst du es jedem recht zu machen, so machst du keinen glücklich. Which roughly translates to, if you try to please everyone, you'll end up making no one happy.